The Athletic and theathletic.com, written by Alec Lewis, at Alec_Lewis via Twitter. Please follow him as 9 to Noon does. There's a story that is the story behind the 5-0 start for the Minnesota Vikings. It's a very comprehensive story. Could you give us the Cliff's notes, if possible, for those who missed it, Alec, and good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Paul. I wrote I wrote about a really long story, really to try to just sum up how this has happened, and it goes through like the the off-season conversations between Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell, and how kind of they directed this arc of wanting to really alter the vision for the team from a play style perspective, from a turnover margin perspective, and then from a defensive personnel. They knew that last year's defensive approach, which was max coverage, 6-man pass rush, and max pressure, 6-man pass rush, and then max coverage, drop 8. They knew that was not going to be sustainable another year.
Yep.
And they knew the only way to build upon that was to add the type of personnel that would allow them to. And so, it's interesting. Like, I think so much of the young quarterback buzz back in March and April, rightfully, like, to be excited about J.J. McCarthy and to think about who they were going to draft, that was so much of the conversation. It kind of masked how important and how much time and how much energy they put into that free agency period.
Yeah.
And when you think about what this team's done, it really all lies in the decisions they made in free agency with Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Stephon Gilmore, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold, Kamu Grugier-Hill, Jihad Ward, they signed all those guys in like a multi-day span, and it was based upon a lot of time spent by the coaching staff and the personnel department.
Yep.
Like, I give a lot of credit to a guy, Sam DeLuca, from a front office perspective that they brought in, who had worked with Kwesi in Cleveland. I give the front office a lot of credit. They studied a lot of these players back last year during the trade deadline, so they had kind of a lot of background built up on a lot of the guys they signed. So it was cool to just try to put together a story of like how this has happened from a cinematic standpoint, which is kind of what I try to do.
Right.
And it was, I think you summarized that really, really well. Nobody was talking about Andrew Van Ginkel. And now we're talking about him as a possible defensive MVP of the league, and that signing merited almost no attention to this fan base.
Why are you shaking your head
because
now?
the funny no, I'm shaking my head. It's crazy.
Let me tell you this. Charch hit me with this earlier because I'm like, with Aiden Hutchinson down, I mean, he has 2 pick sixes. Well, and sacks and the whole thing. So he has to be in the conversation, Van Ginkel, for Defensive Player of the Year, right?
Yeah,
he's 50 to 1. You can get 50 to 1 on him right now.
Yeah, 2 interceptions, and if you try one of those underneath routes when the Vikings are bringing pressure,
yes,
he's gonna be in the passing lane again. That just, I was laughing or shaking my head because it's like the guy is the most. If you talk to him in the locker room, he's like your statistics teacher in 7th grade or 9th grade that was like, yeah, this guy's pretty quiet, he's pretty smart, he's kind of nice, like. You feel like you could go play golf and a golf outing with him.
How about, he's unassuming. How about the second half of the Jets game? May have read it in one of your tweets or whatever. But so Rodgers throws a pick 6. Only the 5th in Aaron Rodgers' career. Okay?
Amazing.
Right. And so Rodgers just making conversation because that's how he is during games. And he's like, hey, Andrew, Christmas came early for you. Okay, well, the stock response you'll get from some of these knuckleheads in the game would be, F you, or I'm the Grinch, I take Christmas, things like that in the arrogancy leader. But Van Ginkel, from what I understand, got nervous and awkward and just said, thank you. No, he just said thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Yes.
He looks like a Game of Thrones character, but then, like, again, the personality's like a guy who's like getting coffee for people around the office. Like, it's just it's such an interesting dynamic. And when you ask him about making some of these plays, he's kind of like, you just like kind of read the formations. Like, no, you don't. No one does that.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, I love the kid, and when I first met him, it was awesome. He's really difficult to talk to sometimes about plays because Cashman's the same way. They don't want to overshare But they're like, yeah, like I've seen you around a lot, Alec. I've seen you around a lot, Paul. Yeah, I know I can trust you, but they're not going to overshare. So it makes it difficult to hear the answer.
It's both. They don't want to overshare to give the secrets of the defense, but also I think part of it is some of what they're doing is just reactionary. It's just processing. And like, how do you explain what was going through your mind from a thought cognitive level? Like you can't really explain that. It's just you either have the mental capability to make quick decisions on the fly or you don't. And that's another aspect of all the guys they've brought in. Even an Ivan Pace, like you watch that guy fill gaps in the run game, and he's not like applying technique. It's just a see ball, react, dip underneath the offensive tackle, like in a way that you can't really teach. Guys just have that mental capacity.
So you're saying Van Ginkel's smart and Pace Jr. is not?
No, I'm saying they're all smart. Okay. They're all smart, but but we always talk about football smarts and I think we think of it as like can they answer ACT questions? It's not that. It is smarts of can you read space and split-second decision making? Like can you figure out where to be in 2 seconds? And these guys all like have that ability, which is I think partly unteachable just because that's just what you were mentally kind of built with.
Yeah.
Man just walked by with the number 15 jersey, and for all the offensive, defensive, all the off-season defensive discussion we've just had, we haven't talked about Dallas Turner really at all this year, and I think it'd be interesting to just talk through where he is. We knew he'd be rotational, that he wasn't going to be an every down player at this stage of his career, and that's just, that part's fine. Here's where we are right now in Dallas Turner. He has played 75 defensive snaps out of 343 defensive plays so far. He's almost played as many special teams snaps as he has defensive snaps.
Yeah.
He has generated 3 quarterback pressures, 1 sack and 2 hurries.
Yeah.
He's got 3 tackles in 75 snaps.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've gotten out of Dallas Turner right now, which I don't think there was, I don't think there was expectations for him to be, although he was a first-round pick, and we traded a ton to go get him. So I guess I did think he'd be playing more than he is, and I thought he'd be more impactful than what we've had so far. But, Alec, what are your thoughts so far on what we've seen from Dallas Turner or Paul?
Yeah, and AD.
I thought you had a take on that.
I just wanted to watch you smile.
You kept looking at me like you had some awesome analysis of what you thought Dallas Turner could do this weekend. I was looking forward to you dropping. No, what I think about Dallas Turner is this. He's an incredibly explosive player. He's also mentally capable in a way that I think, I'll say this the best way I can. I think he is driven and able to understand a defense in a way that some of the 22 early round draft picks were not. But I think the issue or the reason that the numbers are what they are is because you have a guy in Jonathan Grenard who this from the numbers, but he's been as effective as of a pass rusher as anybody in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have Andrew Van Ginkel, who we just talked about, who's intercepting passes for touchdowns every single game. And then on third down, you have a guy in Jihad Ward who can play. He's so big,
physical,
that he can play the nose position and rush on third down. So really, if you're thinking about, and then you have Patrick Jones, who I think has 5 sacks.
Right.
So it's like, I get wanting to see Dallas Turner. Trust me, I want to see him as much as anybody. I'm from Alabama. I know what he can do. Yeah. I know how physically and athletically gifted he is, and I know we will see him. But right now, it's hard to find a real opportunity for him, or it has been, I guess, through 5 weeks. Now, we have seen in spurts, they've even played him a couple snaps at off-ball linebacker, and he's looked good in coverage. So
define off-ball linebacker.
Off-ball linebacker is like the Blake Cashman spot, or the off the line of scrimmage.
ILB, inside linebacker.
Yeah, inside linebacker.
Yeah.
So I will say that I have enough belief in Brian Flores and in Mike Saravo and the staff to put Dallas Turner in the correct positions when the time comes.
Saravo's the inside linebackers coach.
I guess I'm saying all this stuff like it's
no, like we all.
I mean, I live
You're
with
wound up. So am I.
I'm wound up. I'm on coffee.
I've already put Jefferson on 337, breaking Clippers record from the 80s.
I think Monticello actually announced while you were making your weird noise that they're going to do a parade for you.
Really?
Because you announced that Justin Jefferson's going to have the greatest game in history of any football player.
If they blitz a lot.
I think if they don't blitz a lot, he's going to be effective. And I think Jordan.
I think you're shortchanging McNeil and Reeder. And what they can do in the middle.
No, I'm not.
Without blitzing.
No, I'm not shortchanging him. I've been on record going back to when we were in.
Why is it, do you think, Van Ginkel's smarter than Pace?
You got me thrown off. You got me. You ran quarters, and I was expecting.
Well, I know your dad John's listening, so I'm the surrogate. He's the dad. We're both smiling right now. That's all we look to get out of this thing.
You're playing fast. Look, that's how much does he say that?
Hey,
right.
That's a classic.
Look what's happened to you.
Oh wow!
You've picked up.
You're
You're starting to pick up all your.
That's what he does when he starts to feel like it's running away from him. He's playing fast right now, which is kind of like it's your own mental motivation for you.
Yeah, enough about me, Charch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry to talk about you.
I want to talk about Byron Murphy. Now, the Vikings have seen the most pass plays on a per-game basis than any team, and it's not close. But Byron Murphy right now allowing more yards per game in coverage than any player in the league. He's allowed more receptions per game than any player in the league, 7 receptions per game in his coverage. Is this just schematically we put Byron Murphy into spots where it would be difficult for anybody? Or is Byron Murphy just not playing at the level that the other corners are?
It's an interesting question, and I would have to probably watch the film closer to give you like an evaluation that I really felt totally confident in. But I said this to you before when we've been here on Fridays. Like, they haven't played a ton of like strict man coverage.
No.
Now they did. Now what is so fascinating is they played in Brian Flores' first 20 games here. They played 2-man, which is cover 2 with man coverage, 3 snaps, and then against the Jets they did it 8 snaps in one game, which is like the classic most Brian Flores thing ever. So I think some of those numbers, I wonder how much is Byron Murphy being deemed because the ball's like close to him, which maybe just be a factor of the coverages they're playing, or how much is that I will say in watching him over almost a season and a half now, like it does feel at times he's not the stickiest maybe compared to a Stephon Gilmore, but I wouldn't expect him to be. As we talk about Byron Murphy, I remember a crossing route with Jawan Jennings against the 49ers where they did play man coverage and Byron's trailing him across the field, but he played pretty good coverage and Brock Purdy just beat him over the top. So I don't know. I would say that I'm not overly concerned about Byron Murphy's coverage ability because what they've done is mix coverages up so well that it usually does not fall on a cornerback to just stick with the guy. And I think Brian Flores knows these players so well that he would not put a Byron Murphy on an island over and over because he knows that would probably not be the most optimal for what they want to do. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do want to watch it more when you bring up these numbers just to try to figure it out.
The Vikings defend the slot a lot of different ways, and you and I have talked about this a few times in previous feasts this year. And it's not always Byron Murphy. A lot of time, lots of different guys. Sometimes it's Harrison Smith. It's they use a lot of different guys for slot usage, but it's Byron Murphy the most. And here comes Amon-Ra St. Brown, who might be the best slot receiver in the league. The dude's amazing. His last year in 2 games against the Vikings, 109 yards and I believe 134 yards against the Vikings. This is going to be a matchup that could decide this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a potential game winner for them, and Byron Murphy does get a lot of reps in the slot.
And I wonder if you're Brian Flores, can you do so much from a scheme pressure standpoint that you limit the amount of routes that an Amon-Ra St. Brown can run? And that's something with Brian Flores that it's hard to understand externally, and I'm going to try to explain it in some way, but like what their defense is so complicated that opposing offenses have to make their game plans like so tiny. So they cut out a lot of what they want to do because they have to be able to beat this defense. So maybe that's a way to kind of slow an Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I mean, beyond Amon-Ra, like Jamison Williams is all over the tape, and he is electric. Jahmyr Gibbs, like this guy is one-man explosive play rate. It was Sam Laporta, like we barely ever talk about. Last year, he put together one of the best probably rookie tight end seasons like that I've seen, at least.
The Vikings this year.
Tim Patrick is their third-string receiver. Out of nowhere, he looks great too.
He does look good.
The Vikings this year, and you guys can look back at it, watch the plays, or just look at the stats if you want. But just quick twitch, they tight ends have found their way against the Vikings a little bit this year. Like, I remember Kittle had a big game.
He did.
Bellinger only had 2 catches week 1, but he dropped a couple that would have added about 20 to 30 to it. The Texans basically don't roster a tight end. Conklin
He had a good game.
He was up and down the field a little bit.
He was.
What am I missing here? Packers. Kraft and Musgrave, not a ton, but I mean
Kraft had 63 and a touch.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
So here's
Charch had that pulled up.
Nice job. Here's what I'm getting at is because you can't. The 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens couldn't cover everything, every single play. So just from a fantasy standpoint and an analytical standpoint, just go back and look at it into this game. I just gut feel tight ends have gotten us a little bit this year.
And it might make sense because maybe the Vikings leave some space underneath. They are more okay probably giving up an 8-yard gain than a 28-yard gain. And that's like, I've said this on the air with you guys before. The 2 most important statistics to winning are turnovers and explosive plays. And one of the ways Brian Flores builds his defense is how can we limit explosive plays, because that is important to winning. And so, if they can limit explosive plays by giving up space underneath, that might be a way that Detroit is going to be able to get the ball to Sam Laporta and move the ball down the field. But again, I think the more that they can keep Jared Goff from sitting back there in the pocket and being able to throw the ball accurately down the field, the better the better off they're going to be in this game.
Laporta was good last year, very good, one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever, history of the league. And the Vikings held him to 18 yards and 29 yards in the 2 games, and you feel like that was a scenario where Brian Flores just said, okay, we're not going to get beat by Sam Laporta. We're going to take our chances somewhere else.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't remember if in that second game or one of them, he might have gotten hurt in one of those games. And I don't know if it was early on or I kind of vaguely remember that. But, yeah, I mean, like you said it perfectly. You can't take away everything. Like, I think, and Harrison Smith has said, I remember watching film with Harrison Smith before the season, and we were talking about certain coverages. And he said to me, he's like, you just... There are times where you played your structure correctly, but the offense does what they do. And the offenses in this league are great. So, I mean, Ben Johnson and what they've done the fact that he is not a head coach and the fact that he is still...
He could be if he wanted to be.
He turned down 2 jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, credit
last
him.
2 years.
Credit him for being selective about the job and the ownership that you want to work with.
Yeah, no question. And like, the other thing about... Detroit has done such a good job in the draft. Like, they're 21 drafted. I mean, Brad Holmes and what they've done, the construction of the roster, like I mentioned, to have a really good offensive line for a quarterback that needs it to be as effective as Jared Goff can be. I mean, just everything even like extending David Montgomery early. They just extended Ali McNeil.
How about that? I brought that up earlier to Charch. I mean, that just like teams in subtle, nuance-laden fashion, they play so fast with the subtlety where people, I'm glad you brought that up, but think about it. It's McNeil wanted money into the season. Okay, well, that's a no. Okay, well, Lean's probably not super happy. There have been some quotes during the course of the season like, we need him to play a certain way for us to win. He played that, so Hutchinson goes down in the Dallas game. McNeil was a combo of Aaron Donald and a young Gerald McCoy for about 4 series. Okay, he was out of his 54. He was out of his mind how good he was. And against Zach Martin, too, right guard. They might have checked out because they were getting killed. But so what do the Lions do? We've lost Hutchinson for the year. We don't have to do this. We're going to give McNeil his money right now, just to let him know how much we believe in him and how much we're counting on him to come through. I like subtlety like that.
And it's the same with David Montgomery. It's like, you've been here and you've produced every single week. You've been incredible on the ground in the red zone and all this. Like, we're going to reward you for doing that. And
he got a deal?
Yeah, he did. I think a 2-year deal. And to flip it on the other side, one of the aspects I've also thought about with this Vikings start is the fact that they extended Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw when they did. It kind of got all that potential noise out of the way.
Yeah,
and
great way to put it.
And it allows.
Great way to put it.
And so I give the front office credit because it allows the focus to be on every single week and not on these other big picture, more self-driven type of storylines. So I've thought about how that might have contributed to just the single focus on a weekly basis.
Time for one more.
Jamison Williams' first career catch was that 40-yard bomb against the Vikings a couple of years ago.
At Ford Field.
Yep, still a little bitter about that. He's got the track record here. He's a game-changing wide receiver with the deep speed that he brings, the vertical speed that he brings. I'd mentioned Byron Murphy's struggles. Shaq Griffin has quietly been very good.
It's
very
amazing.
good.
Yeah, because like when he was with Seattle and he played with his brother, I mean, I remember that he was all right. Like nothing jumped out. I forgot he had gone to other places. But yeah, when you watch these things back, I'm like, well, at least for me, who knew how sticky he was?
He's giving up 13 yards per game in his coverage, an opposed passer rating of 49. I mean, this is, we're getting good reps out of him. That's going to be an interesting matchup here.
Wow.
And not letting Jamison Williams get the big play, the chunk plays, going to be really important to this game.
Yeah, Jamison Williams, so interesting. In Alabama, he was incredible. Like, he was so good at Alabama. And then, obviously, he transitions, and he had such an interesting first couple years. There was the gambling stuff.
Yeah,
he really couldn't get on the field. Just a lot going on with him. But when he got injured in the national championship game between Alabama and Georgia really took over the game from that point on. So I always was like, I don't know why it's not working out for him. It's just not surprising to see how effective he's been. And you're exactly right. It is going to be incumbent upon the Shaq Griffins, the Byron Murphys, the Stephon Gilmore, who's been, how about that guy and how good he's been this year for them? It's going to be incumbent upon them to be on their A game. And as you said earlier, we said that for 49ers. We said that for the Texans. It's going to be, I expect this to be a very, very good game. Two very well-coached teams. Just a blast that we get this 5-0 team against this Lions team at US Bank Sunday.
It's going to be great.
You know me.
It has the potential.
Yeah.
Have you asked your father about Terrion Arnold and like what he saw down Tuscaloosa way?
My dad is not the most elite football mind.
He told me he watches every Alabama game.
But he thinks just like most media people like me.
Yeah.
We think we know more than we. No, my dad. Terrion Arnold is he plays very grabby. He's gotten flagged like an unbelievable amount.
He has 8 penalties this year. Charch had 5 pass interference.
He was good at Alabama. What's interesting for me is one of the cornerbacks that they could have to use is Ennis Rakestraw, who's another rookie.
Yeah, he's ahead of Kendall Vildor.
And he played at Mizzou.
Is he?
Rakestraw or something?
Yeah, Rakestraw.
That's right.
Played at Missouri where I'm from. And it was like the recruit that really altered the Missouri.
Well, how is Chase Daniel?
Yeah, he's the recruit that really altered Missouri football's program. And so I'm very familiar with Ennis Rakestraw. And I will tell you, he has not faced anything remotely close to what he will be looking at across the line.
And if they blitz, Flipper's record.
Justin Flipper Jefferson will have 380 billion yards.
If they blitz a lot, then not only is Flipper Anderson's record dead, but I think he'll get Stan Musial's record for single season RBI in the same building.
Will you throw in on the call Sunday if Justin's like torching him? Are you going to throw in Flipper? You'll have that on your placard.
It's a game calling depth chart.
Okay.
And what I probably will do is promote the redzone.org, Pro Football Reference, ProFootballTalk.com, a bunch of things.
Yeah,
like
Pro
that.
Football Talk. Yeah, that's good.
Let's save that and clip that. Play it for him next Wednesday and see what his response is. Hey, I appreciate you. You're great. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey,
Monticello was.
Give it up now. Alec Lewis, the bomb. Absolutely fantastic as a writer and on 9 to noon at Alec_Lewis. That's where you follow him via the X Machine. All right, around the corner, we're going to finish the fantasy football feast in a truncated fashion with some fantasy questions for Churchy. And first, we have this with Nordo.
Yes, the fan, along with two men and a junk truck. They want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. All you got to do, go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword dollar, and you might win 1,000 of them. The keyword is dollar at KFAN.com.
the fantasy football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings on Monticello. We hit what I thought were some pertinent things earlier. So over the course of the next 3, 4, or 5 minutes, and here they are. Saquon Barkley. At MetLife Stadium, and his first game against his former team. What do you think of that one?
Did you watch the off-season Hard Knocks with the Giants?
I didn't, but I heard about it. I've read the quotes a million times now, and they matter.
They do matter. We saw this thing go down in real time. It was fascinating to see. We have a situation with Joe Shane where he told Saquon, "We're going to let you test free agency, and then." If we feel like we want to match your deal, we'll match your deal.
Have it in here, man.
And Saquon told him to jam it, which I thought was great. And Joe Shane, it was good television. Barkley's having a good year, Paul. Yeah. He looks rejuvenated for the Eagles. He's running at almost 5.5 yards per carry.
Wow.
But the Giants defense, I alluded to this earlier. Giants defense, they're good. It has gotten good. Over the last month, here's where, let me give you a little data on this. Over the last month, they're giving up 53 rushing yards per game and 3.9 yards per carry. So, and if any team knows any flaws in Saquon's game, and there aren't a lot, he's really good, it would be the Giants. So I don't know that the homecoming here for Saquon is going to be like an apocalyptic game where he's just going to, 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. It might be a little more modest than that against a very much improved Giants defense. We'll see.
All right. So from Saquon, and I like that, to Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So it's like yesterday we're doing our 6-pack of picks, and so I'm like looking at games and everything, and I'm like, you know what? There's so much about Cleveland that looks like it never will win a game again, especially with that guy at quarterback. But Chicknub coming back is going to help. But Stefanski has been, it's like if you're going to get a job as head coach of the Cleveland Browns, well, first and foremost, beat Cincinnati.
Yes.
Beat the in-state team. He beat them 6 in a row. Well, then he had a bunch of injury related, so it came back at 6-2. But with Chubb back, the improbability of it looks like they'll win, and the fact that he's always been good against this coaching staff.
Yeah.
What do you think of Nick Chubb? Do you use him this week? And I kind of give Cleveland a little chance to win this game.
Originally I was like, no chance. We're going to let Nick Chubb first game back off in a 13 months ACL.
Yeah.
But then I started digging into it. Here's your case. Jerome Ford has been the starter. He's probably not going to play. He's got a hamstring injury. The backup behind him, Donta Foreman, probably not going to play. Pierre Strong is the only other running back. He doesn't belong on an NFL roster. And the opponent, Cincinnati, this might be the worst run defense in the NFL.
Wow.
5 of 6 opponents have scored rushing touchdowns against Cincinnati. 5 of 6 opponents, lead runners, have topped 107 yards.
Never would have guessed.
Well,
they had DJ Reader. He got hurt in the Vikings game last year, and that was the last he played for them. He ends up going to the Lions.
Yes.
There was they had somebody else in their secondary who's either hurt or out, but wow, it really fell off that badly.
It fell off that badly. Now, Chubb's not going to, he's not going to get 20 carries, but Stefanski this week did say he's not on a play count.
Right.
So we don't know how many. I think he touches the ball 10, 12, 14 times, and that might be enough against a bad Cincinnati secondary. And then there's this, Paul. Man, does Kevin Stefanski need just a feel-good moment on his team right now? Getting Nick Chubb in the end zone would be so good for just the team, the fan base, for Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
I kind of like Nick Chubb here.
I wonder just truly why he keeps wheeling Deshaun Watson out there. Jameis Winston ain't much. But, we talked about something earlier where, I kind of talked, and I don't have any Kevin-related steam on this. I kind of talked my way into it. It's like, because I watched some highlights from Flacco with Indianapolis, and then I'm like, he's better than Deshaun. As crazy it is to say he's better than Deshaun Watson. And he was with Cleveland. But so you're not going to sit the guy that makes all that money? Why not? Why not? You're paying it. You're the boss.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have a right to move on if you're interested. But, I mean, if valor went before discretion here, and it's
Right.
like, well, we can't keep the guy who was a Super Bowl MVP, but he's 90. We can't keep him around because, Deshaun feels impacted by it because he knows that he might be a better passer. Who freaking cares? You're trying to win games, man.
Couldn't agree more. And here's the other thing that you agree with everything you just said, and this. The players know. The players know Deshaun Watson's killing this team. And how are they supposed to rally and do the best job they can do when they know their quarterback is giving them very limited opportunities to win, and he's not the best player at his position on the roster right now.
Right.
It's probably Jameis Winston, who's plenty flawed, don't get me wrong, but man, you can see it in how Deshaun Watson plays. Dude's going through the motions. He's collecting a check. The players know it. And I worry as somebody that's very fond of Kevin Stefanski that he's going to go down with the ship on this thing.
Well, he just got a new deal. I mean, he and Barry into this year got extensions. That ain't
Thank
happening.
God. I did not remember that.
That
I'm
is
glad.
not happening.
Now,
well, I thought about it. Believe me, it's like, so I looked it up like the last 3 weeks ago.
All right, good.
I think
I'm
I was pretty sure it was into this year.
I hope you're right, although teams do fire guys with time left, but Stefanski's won Coach of the Year twice.
Right.
I mean, and obviously everybody knows
Ain't
it's
nobody
not
getting fired
Stefanski.
here.
Look at what Stefanski did with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Stefanski's fault. Joe Flacco was awesome when given a just capable NFL average quarterback like Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
The Browns were very, very good last year.
Yeah, I just wonder who truly wanted Deshaun Watson.
Ownership.
And well, I know, but Kevin's always, I mean, I'm being just fair here. Kevin, unless something changed, always has liked Deshaun. He was here so long that we've talked about Deshaun before. Now, this was before, all of the chicanery.
Yeah.
And the PTSD that's come out of it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he's always liked Deshaun. So what?
If you were looking at
situation.
the quarterback that Deshaun Watson was in Houston,
Yeah.
what wasn't there to like?
Good point.
I mean, that guy was a game-changing
Yeah.
quarterback. He had the running ability. He was throwing well. I mean, and now look. I mean, this is a totally different guy now. 5 years later, you can't unrecognizable with that version.
That's the Fantasy Feast, courtesy of Paul Charchi, and you can find his rankings at guillotineleagues.com. Guillotine League or Leagues, both work, right?
Yep, both work.
Guillotine League.
New leagues forming all the time. Play for cash, play for free.
fired
Yeah,
up.
we're still making leagues.
Bruh.
12 weeks left to play. You can get in a brand new
How
Guillotine
didn't you
League
let
right
me
now.
know that you fired up the public league?
The public leagues are going. Play for cash
So
right
it must
now.
have been new, right?
3 weeks ago.
Right
Should have
on,
mentioned
man.
it. Yeah.
Congratulations. Cool.
Play for prizes. You can get into a free league if you want. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
GuillotineLeagues.com.
We put a wrap on the show and offer up our final Vikings-Lions thoughts after this.
I can't wait until tomorrow. 'Cause tomorrow might very well be too
9 to noon,
late.
KFAN, Buffalo Wild Wings, Monticello. Charchi, take it away.
I found this to be fascinating. Jaden Daniels having a really nice rookie season, of course. We played 6 NFL weeks. He's won Offensive Rookie of the Year 5 times in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I saw that.
We may be looking at a historic run for Jaden Daniels, and the Commanders needed this so badly as an organization, right? They finally get rid of Daniel Snyder. They've completely rebooted their entire franchise now with new ownership. They've got a new general manager. They've got a new head coach. And now they've got one of the most electric young rookies that we've seen hit this league in years. And the kid can do it all, Paul. The way that they've handled him has been so smart. I loved it. First couple of games for Jaden Daniels. Quick dump off here, quick pass here. And then after week 2, they start opening up the playbook and they start going downfield to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Start opening things up. And the kid, and he had been a good deep passer at LSU. He's connecting on all these deep passes. And now you've got Washington improbably in first place in their division.
4-2?
4-2.
Damn.
They look really good.
And they still got all those good defensive linemen, too, like Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen.
Well, they let most of that stuff go.
Yeah, they still have Deron Payne.
They do have Payne.
Sure of that. Montez Sweat went to Chicago.
Yep.
So, wow. So Dan
Chase
Quinn.
Young's gone.
Yeah, Chase Young. So the Dan Quinn's pulling some good stuff out of that team. You know what and this is this is FIPA, fairness in pilfering somebody else's take act. I heard somebody, I can't remember where, it wasn't on KFAN, it was something else, talking about how well Washington played the Ravens for the balance of the game.
Yeah.
It was like the horse that was 2 or 3 lengths behind Secretariat, and Secretariat's rider, Ron Turcotte, was never going to move a muscle, and the one in second was never going by, but pushed him to the wire.
Love it.
And Jayden Daniels had a lot to do with that, because the same person also I've also heard say that, Baltimore can get a little bored with things where, like, they play in high scoring games, the quarterback runs first, but he's throwing okay at same old Lamar, but they almost want pressure put on them to put the pedal to the metal with 8 minutes to go in the game and go out there and win it. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, well, they're the same as Philadelphia, with the exception of Philadelphia loses those games all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Now, I know they just got A.J. Brown back, and he had a big game, but Philadelphia plays that board bit where, it's like, we need a challenge, we need to get punched, we need something to get us engaged. But they're losing those games when they act like that, and hurts with these turnovers. Holy cow. But when I heard my man lay it out, like how well Washington counteracted Baltimore, a team that might go to the Super Bowl, for the entire game, I'm like, damn.
It was a 1-touchdown game in the fourth quarter.
Look at Dan Quinn just pulling everything out of this team.
Yeah, and their secondary was like historically bad last year, and they've been able to turn that around to some degree.
Yeah. Does that former Gopher St. Juice?
He's still starting.
Yeah. Really, he was a problem last year.
He's not great.
Okay.
What he is he's physical, and so they usually line him up against whoever the most physical guy is on the field.
Love it.
And so he's getting some run there, and he's managed to keep his job.
So you're watching Washington play.
I am watching. I'm watching Washington football.
Wow.
Austin Eckler, a little bit reborn there.
I love that.
He's playing well.
So he backs up who?
He backs up Brian Robinson.
Right.
Yeah, and he looks like a different
Tank
guy as well.
Bigsby is Jacksonville.
He's Tank.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm sorry to spitball here. What in the heck happened to Travis Etienne?
He doesn't run with the same sort of alacrity, power. Tank Bigsby hits the field.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, he is just
who the hell is
angry.
Tank Bigsby? Where'd he come from?
So, okay, there's a story here.
Yeah.
Last preseason, he looked awesome. And so I'm on Fantasy Football Weekly, and I'm like, Travis Etienne's okay, but this Tank Bigsby cat's really good. Like, last pick of your draft, go get him. So all preseason, I'm like, Tank Bigsby, Tank Bigsby, Tank Bigsby. Week 1 comes last year, Tank Bigsby gets a touchdown. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
That's great.
Then he fumbles, never sees the field again the rest of the year, and I look like an idiot. That was last year for Tank Bigsby.
Oh, he went Damian Pierce on it.
He did go Damian Pierce.
That guy got hurt.
Then
Pierce got hurt.
This year, Bigsby looks awesome. By many metrics, he's the best runner in the NFL right now.
Wow.
By broken tackle rate, yards over expectation, yards per carry. Tank Bigsby looks amazing. And this past game when Jacksonville got blown out and a bunch of players are like, yeah, we quit. And they've stayed in London this week. Their head coach, Doug Peterson, said, we're putting guys on the field. We're making changes. We're putting guys on the field that want to play.
Wow.
And I think there's a chance Travis Etienne doesn't play with a shoulder injury.
Wow.
Tank Bigsby might be sitting on a very big game this week, and he might not look back at this job. If it were up to me, it's the Patriots coming. Jacksonville gets a win against a ratty
the London game?
It is.
Ain't nobody getting up early.
Nobody's getting up early for that. I might sleep in.
You wouldn't know fantasy football. You got to get up
I
early.
kind of have to. And I want to see Tank Bigsby play.
It's your job.
So if Jacksonville can wrench a win against a ratty New England team, and Tank Bigsby helps, this thing could be a Tank Bigsby job going forward. He could become the
So the Vikings have beaten the Texans. The Packers beat the Colts, Lions, whatever. Just quickly, I predicted yesterday on the radio, Vikings, Lions, and Packers all sweep the AFC South.
Wow.
12-0, do you think?
Oh, man.
We'll find out. Hey, nice job.
Thanks a lot. Great day today.
Hey!
Monticello. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monticello. We'll start calling you Monticellout. Just sold out every time. J-Dub, Jared Wells, second to none engineer. He'll be by my side Sunday from U.S. Bank Stadium for the Vikings and the Lions. God bless all of you. Thank you for listening to KFAN when you do. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Good time.
Good news or money, leave a message.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.